Hey everyone, welcome to a bonus episode of the Unofficial Universal Orlando podcast. I have Tracy with me.
Hello everyone.
And as we have continued to promise, Halloween Horror Nights may be cancelled this year, but we're going to talk about it at every opportunity, and today is no exception. As we've let you know, Universal Orlando have been hosting what has been dubbed by fans as Horror Nights Light. And we are very pleased to welcome show director Charles Gray once again onto the podcast to talk about it. So, hey Charles, how's it going?
It's going great. I'm so happy to hear from you. We haven't talked in a little while, and last time we talked, I think I was teasing you guys for not visiting us, and now I can't tease you because obviously you can't.
Well, we were here last year. Well, there last year.
Yeah,
we did come out last year, and it was
as well.
Awesome.
It was. It really was.
Did you go through the Yeti house?
My favorite house of last year.
Also mine.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
it was our last house of last year at 1:30 in the morning on our RIP tour. No one in front of us, no one behind us. It was amazing.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Perfect. It really was. So, Charles, not being able to get over to Universal this year to experience Horror Nights 30 has made us all very sad. Incredibly sad, actually. But it must have been a blow for you guys not to be able to put on the full event.
Yeah, I mean, we were, bummed out, just like everybody else. I mean, you work on something and there's so many people experiencing that, and we were bummed out. And then when we heard that there's a possibility of having some offerings, we were very excited.
Yeah.
There were cheers, there were hugs, distance hugs, of course.
Of course.
Yes.
That we mimed from 6 feet away. But it was, we were very excited, and it was all hands on deck and work to get these things up and running.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's cool. Like you say, you've managed to bring the guests a little bit of Horror Nights during the day. And first off was the opening of the Tribute Store back in July. We do want to talk about that because the Tribute Store's become such a stalwart of Horror Nights now. I mean, we hung out a ton there last year.
Yeah.
It looks like you guys have had a lot of fun putting it together this year.
Absolutely. So much decor and scenic in there. So not only are, we're offering the merchandise, but everything that goes around the merchandise, it's almost like its own, like you said, it's like an experience now.
Yeah.
People are lining up to go in and experience it. And this is the first time we're offering food products in there too, which is great. And they're all very specialized. And I saw the Tooth Fairy cookie that is just gnarly looking.
Awesome.
It's disgusting. It's one of those ones you have to just buy it. Like, I got to get that weird thing. And then they have these beating hearts.
They are so
that my daughters who are not old enough yet to come see the houses, but I am going to take them in there and dare them to eat one of those beating hearts.
Awesome.
It's the Beetlejuice hot dog things look amazing. They're so cool.
Yeah. So many great things in the store each year when it's up, and it's so photogenic as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's another new offering for this year, which I am very, very jealous of because it looks awesome. That's the Skeleton Bar and Cafe La Bamba. It's an absolutely great addition. You guys must have had a lot of fun creating it, and it's something that we think would definitely be a welcome addition to the event every year moving forward. Hint, hint, hint.
Yeah, exactly. I know the food and beverage people had a great time putting that together, and it's always interesting to find new ways to present the things that we already know and love. And we're always exploring, we're always trying to find new ways to do it. And so I would say that a silver lining to a lot of this is finding those new and different ways to get those offerings to people. And again, I'm excited about La Bamba being opened, and I'm always excited for pizza fries.
Of course. But yeah, that's the thing. I think with everything that's going on, I think just in the world as a whole, it's made people look at things very differently and come at certain things in a different way. And I think Horror Nights is one of those things that's definitely making you sort of, like you say, just look at things from a very different perspective and bringing things that you wouldn't necessarily normally look at, but I think could really become part of the event moving forward. Hint, 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 hint.
Hey, that's my line.
There's a lot of hinting going on here, yes. Nudge, nudge.
Yeah, it looks really, because the food and drink has become such a staple at Horror Nights now. Definitely since Stranger Things came 2 years ago, those food offerings with pizza fries and everything, it has become, Horror Nights isn't just about going through the houses and the scare zones and stuff, it's about having those drinks and having that food, and this brings it to that next level, definitely.
It's interesting how the event kind of leaks out into other portions of our property too. Like in City Walk, we have the Voodoo Donut store, and it has like a Jack the Clown donut there, and so there's always fun ways to experience the event in little bits and pieces before you even get into the event.
I love that.
So it's a lot of fun for that day or night, whichever you're visiting.
Mm-hmm.
That's it, exactly. And not the last two things, but the other two little things that we want to talk about that have been added. And it's something we've talked about on the show quite a lot, actually, as far as having the sweet to the... And I'm not calling Horror Nights sour because it's not, but the sweet to the sour of Horror Nights is the trick-or-treating for kids in Islands of Adventure, and then also allowing guests to dress up when visiting the parks. Two great additions again, and something I think we'd like to see become a permanent fixture to keep the kids out of Horror Nights, honestly, at that point.
But I would just like to say... dressing up the parks, huge hint.
I feel like you guys are making a proposal. You're gonna put up your keynote address any moment now.
That's it.
It's such a great idea, though.
It really is.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that there's a lot of kids really enjoying themselves here, and the daytime offering gives us. Now we have such a wide range of it's not just a little kids event or just an adults event.
Yes.
It's now a wide range where you can bring the whole family. There's something for everybody to enjoy along the way. And that's great to be able to broaden our horizons. And I have seen some, like I was just walking this morning through one of the houses. A dad had brought his two kids with him, and it's a great way to introduce them to the product of HHN. So now we're building this new group of fans that are going to come up to, and HHN fans are great. I mean, we just have this such huge group. It's all different types of people, all different walks of life, all different cultures, all coming together and appreciating something that we all have in common, and to see the young people now kind of joining the club, it's just a lot of fun.
It's so surprising to me how many of our friends and listeners aren't horror movie fans, but love Halloween Horror Nights.
Absolutely. If you like just movies in general or television in general, you're walking through these moments. You're actually in the film. You're in the story. And that's something I wanted to bring up now that you say that is the pulsing. The way people are going through houses this year is a little bit different. And so we're able to spend more time in the scenes. And so we've added that extra level of narrative that there's you're spending longer in a scene. You can actually hear the stories. You can hear the voiceovers. And in Tooth Fairy, it's a pop-up book that's 2D that we're walking through, and then it becomes 3-dimensional as you go in and you experience the story. And so each room has a narrator, like a grandpa kind of reading the story to us as we go through. And it's something we've never done before. And so guests are really liking that aspect of something new and different.
Not jealous.
I like the idea.
Not jealous at all.
Not at all, no. So finally, the main event for this year is the opening of the 2 haunted houses as we are talking about them. Now, we've got The Bride of Frankenstein Lives and Revenge of the Tooth Fairies, as you've just mentioned. Now, of course, we can assume both these houses would have been part of the full event had it gone ahead this year. And the Bride House definitely seems like a no-brainer after the huge success among guests of last year's Universal Monsters House.
I think we did a listener survey of everyone putting last year's houses from 1 to 10, and I think Monsters came out on top.
Yeah, that rings it. Yeah,
it was very, very popular. We were happy to see that because it was one of those ones, sometimes you have certain houses, you're like, I really think people are going to like this one. And that was when we're like, I don't know if the younger fan base cares about the Universal Monsters anymore. And then they came in and yes, they do. They all love it. Yeah. And so it's so many generations of people growing up with the Universal Monsters that really created Universal. Really, as an entity in the early years. So it's such an important part of our history, and to be able to bring it back and get a new generation of people excited about it, and our generation to revisit, our youth. Such a good time, and so we're excited to bring The Bride's Tale to life. Mm-hmm.
Well, after all, the classic monsters are where it all began. So.
Absolutely, yeah. It's Universal's heritage, let's be honest.
Yep.
I have to tell you a story, Charles. The listeners have heard this probably multiple times since last year, but we went through the Monsters House last year with a friend and listener of ours, Joe. And when we got to the end bit where Frankenstein comes out, he comes out to do his scare and looks up. Now, our friend Joe is about 6'7",
Something like that.
Frankenstein didn't know what to do at that point because he's used to looking down on people and kind of looked up and didn't know what to do. It was hilarious.
He's like, brother.
Apparently, when we did Scare Actor Dining as well, I wasn't there at this point, but when he went over to meet the Bride of Frankenstein and Frankenstein themselves, the bride found it that funny, she literally cracked up for 5 minutes and couldn't compose herself, just completely broke character and was just howling because he was towering above Frankenstein at that point.
And she was good. She was stony faced the entire time. So yeah, he is tall.
Well, it's great to hear that she was howling. So at least that's very Halloween.
But it's good. It's good that heritage took off last year, and then it's moving forward with the Bride's House this year. And from what we've heard, it's been a lot of people's favourite out of the two.
Yeah.
And speaking of the second one, we've already kind of mentioned it, Revenge of the Tooth Fairy. Being in the dental industry, Tracy used to be, I am now. I would have loved to have got to go through this house. Yeah. I think it would have just been like a busman's holiday kind of thing. But there is a walkthrough online by Attractions Magazine. We have watched it, and it looks like I've come to the realization over the last year that I'm all about the original houses.
Yeah.
And this looks like another stellar original house from the creative team. You guys must have had a blast. But I want to go back. Where did the idea of doing the Tooth Fairy house come from?
Let's see here. I believe Patrick had come with the idea originally, and he found during his research that there's a Tooth Fairy type tale.
Okay.
In almost all around the world. Like all different cultures have something of that sort. And it was very fascinating to find that, the idea of losing your teeth and getting the new ones in kind of is almost that growing up, if you will, of a person. And it's funny. It's like, well, what happens if you don't give your teeth to the Tooth Fairy? What happens? So we're answering that question. And it's this tale of we have a pact almost we have to give the teeth to the Tooth Fairy or, these creatures. And yes, they'll give us candy or coins or something back. But if we don't, we've broken the pact, and they're going to come through and they're going to decimate, whoever lives in that house, and then turn that little kid into one of the Tooth Fairies. So it's a pretty horrific tale. It's a cautionary tale. So make sure your kids brush your teeth.
Oh, yes.
But it's a lot of fun. And it is... the setting is just gorgeous. Manuel Cordero, who I know you guys are probably familiar with too, with his works, of his houses are just so good. I mean, you walk through there and just the detail of the scenic you feel like you're in this manor,
Awesome.
It's so gorgeous in there.
It is beautiful.
It definitely looks, going back to what you were saying earlier about pulsing crowds through, this is definitely one that I think benefits from being able to see the story as you go through, rather than like normally getting rushed through. That having that time to take the story as you go through, I think definitely benefits this house.
Absolutely. And each scare is almost like a plot point too. So you get a little more individualized attention, but also the scares, the appearances of these characters, you can see each thing that happens in the house. Like, they go through each portion. They go through the servants' quarters. They go through the kitchen. They go through the laundry room, everything in the house. And it really, sometimes we jump around chronologically in houses, or we have different ways of presenting to them, but this time it really has very strong story arcs as you go through, which doesn't always happen for us, but it's great that in this instance where we get to spend more time with it, we have very strong story arcs.
Definitely. Yeah, it looks awesome. Like I say, I love the original houses. Like you guys, without having the constrictions of an IP, being able to just let loose and create what you guys want to, I think it definitely brings the creative team to the fore without a doubt.
Yeah, they are very fun to create, and we have a lot of ideas we bring to the table, and then kind of whittle it down to those select few every year. So there's a lot of arm wrestling going on to figure out which ones we use, but we're always happy at the end with which ones we select.
Awesome. Yeah. I just at this point really hope COVID does one and we can get over next year for the full event, because I was so excited to get over for this year, and then all this. I
know. Well, you see, the thing is, with COVID, I think what we need to do is to make it up to ourselves is fly out, be there for the first night for opening night and then just stay for the
I would
duration.
love to do that.
We'll go every night.
Have an extended holiday and hang out with us.
Exactly.
We will promise to make it worth your while.
There we go.
That would be awesome. The
Deal
thing is,
done.
Horror Nights lends itself so much to going multiple nights because there
definitely.
are so many details that you just do not see on that first. We always tell everyone you need to go for as many nights as you can possibly squeeze in just to get, because that first couple of runs through, you don't really see anything. And we'll talk about it after the event like we did last year, and you'll talk about, oh, did you see that in that house? And I'm like, nope. I didn't see that bit. And then people talk about things that you didn't even see. And we went through every house last year like 5 or 6 times, which in the grand scheme of things isn't that many, but it's enough that you think, I'd recognise everything at that point.
Well, it's also very fluid too, because you, as the characters get to know their areas and get to know their triggers. And, but the last night is different than the first night in some ways, as things kind of grow and tweak, and we'll change things too. Like sometimes just the scare isn't quite hitting as much as we wanted. We may change the sound, the speaker placement, the lights, what characters there. So there's always little tweaks along the way too. So it is morphing and a living event. An undead event.
I
mean, we actually did the Unmasking the Horror tour last year for the 3 House, and that makes things even, like, we went through one night and then did the Unmasking the Horror tour the next day, and then going through again gives you a whole different experience. Like, we came out of the first run through Graveyard Games, and I was like, it was okay. And then doing it on the Unmasking the Horror and then going through it again, I loved Graveyard Games last year.
I told you. I loved that one. I liked all the little nods in it. That was good. Yeah. Now, before we wrap up, because we know a lot of people might be concerned about coming during what are unprecedented times. I'll be honest, I'm so sick of hearing that turn of phrase.
That's why I put it in.
It's been months. It's not unprecedented anymore.
Yeah.
So what safety measures do you have in place for the houses? And in your mind, how much of an impact do they have on the house experience?
I will say that it's a lot of layers of protection in the sense that the characters themselves are wearing the cloth masks, and then they have a mask over that mask, and then there's plexi or vinyl in between you and this character. It's kind of covering their boo hole, along with the required mask that the guest is wearing. So there's a lot of different layers. They wipe down the areas in between each set. But I was very surprised that I didn't notice the barriers, and I thought I really would. I really was ready to tweak lighting more and to kind of disguise it better, and I have to tell you that it just goes away, almost as if like exit signs. You see exit signs everywhere in movie theaters or restaurants, and you don't sit there and look at them. It just kind of goes away, and I have to say I was pleasantly surprised. I did not expect that to happen, but it's been great. There's a couple of instances I was talking earlier today about. There's like a bride who is in a sarcophagus, and we have the vinyl over it, and it looks like a prop. It looks like we had covered this prop up, and then she comes to life, and it gets a great scare. And we also cover up holes that there's nothing coming out of too, so it's a consistent look. So it's not like we're telegraphing where things are coming from.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've thought about those things creatively, but it didn't have as much of an impact as I thought it would.
That's good.
And I have to tell you, like, once you kind of take something away and there's that disappointment, and something comes back, there's just so much exuberance and joy from experiencing. It's like we this year. I said it to Ali. I was like, this is like the appetizer that we're giving for next year's banquet that we're inviting you to, just get that little taste. And we'll have our family reunion next year.
Yes, we will.
Oh, trust me, I cannot wait. Like, it's going to, like, we were excited for this year. Next year is just going to, having that extra year in between is just going to be, we're coming out we're actually planning on doing even more. We did 4 nights last year. I think we're planning on doing
all of them.
6 or 7 next year, I think. But we're bringing the kids over next year, so it'll be interesting.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Make sure you guys stop by. Let me know when you're coming.
Oh, we will.
Stop by and say hey.
Yeah, well, I'm sure Blake will be pestering us, so if you tag along with Blake,
Blake
I'm sure we'll get to see
we'll be pestering Blake. Okay, we'll play that way.
Yeah, we watched the walkthrough of Tooth Fairy, and I was surprised from our point of view how little looked like there was anything in place. It just looked like a normal Halloween Horror Nights house. We expected to watch it and be like, it be quite noticeable that things were in place. And it really didn't. Like, they looked like there was the same amount of actors in there as they normally would. The plexiglass didn't really play into anything at all. It just, like you say, the benefit is that you've got that pulsing because you're keeping social distance, so people are potentially getting a better Horror Nights experience in those houses than they would normally.
Yeah, there is that the little bit of one-on-one experience that you feel,
which I love.
Being able to take that time and look at the scenic and things like that a little bit more. It again, we're always evolving, we're always changing, and this was just really something that was the silver lining, that we could bring this out in a different and new way, and it's being well received, and we're all a family. We're all huge fans, even the creators. And we were just excited to hang out with you guys, So, just for all the people out there, know that we care for you guys, and we're going to make sure that you're safe, and we wouldn't do it any other way. And we're excited for next year also.
You're not the only one. As I say, I think everyone's going to be aching to get back over. There's a lot of British people at this point who can't get over this year, who will be chomping at the bit to get over for next year, I'm sure.
The British invasion once again.
That's what it'll be. I think it'd be crazy.
That's so just, great. It's most welcomed.
A last quick question before we go then. Like you say, you've obviously had to look at things differently. Have you learned anything putting the houses together with taking the pandemic into consideration that has that you've gone, we wouldn't necessarily have looked at things that way, but that's something I think will work moving forward? Yeah,
there's a lot of, just to be flexible, I would say, because really, you get it in your head sometimes, and you're always trying to branch out, try new things, be very creative. But even within our group who look at the full spectrum of ideas, to sometimes we will say no to something if it didn't work in the past. And there's certain things we did this year that we just had to do because of safety.
Yes. Yeah.
I'll give you a great example. Sometimes we'll put two characters together in a scene interacting with each other, and we couldn't do that because you can only have one person, in a boo hole for protection. And so we had one of the assistants with a stake staking one of the vampires. Well, we took that vampire out, but kept the audio, and now she's jumping into the scene. She's addressing an off-camera, if you will, or out-of-scene character, and then she goes in and stabbing out of scene, and it sounds like the person that you're not seeing is getting, staked, and it really works. And okay. I'll be fully to admit that I was always like, nah, it's not going to work. And I walked through and I was like, man, it's really reading very well. It's telling the story, and we're with it for such a short amount of time that it does so. So there's these little things that we've had to do that you're like, hey, that really works. Yeah, and just being flexible, continually be creative and be flexible.
Yeah,
that's it. Because you say sometimes it's what you don't see can be more impactful than what you do see.
Well, the brain fills in gaps.
Absolutely, brain fills in gaps.
Yep.
Awesome.
Mind the gap.
Definitely in my case, because my imagination's wild.
Left out one last thing as well. I know we keep going on. The scarecrow stalk kind of comes on from the Christmas tree hunt from last year. That looks awesome. I love that. Again, you're spreading, like we kind of talked about at the beginning, that it's not just staying with the two houses at the front, they are branching out and having the scarecrows around the resort as well. It just adds that little extra Halloween into the rest of the park.
That's a great way for a family to experience the event too. You get your kids and you're saying, hey, go look for these scarecrows. Yeah. And the funny thing is a lot of times the kids will spot it before the adults. But it's a fun way to enjoy it as a group and a family. And, in an era where a lot of times our heads stuck in a phone, even when you're hanging out with a group, it's nice to have an opportunity to experience things with your head up looking as a group.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, and potentially go into places you wouldn't ordinarily go into. I think I know from the Christmas tree hunt last year that a lot of people went, I didn't even know this store existed, and now I've been in it and it's cool. I might go back more.
There you go.
Absolutely.
That's cool.
And who doesn't need more Halloween in their lives?
Oh, everybody, especially at the moment. I think we all do.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Charles, I know you're a very busy man. It's been awesome to talk to you, as always.
Yes, it has.
I am keeping my fingers crossed that this all goes away and we can get over next year and experience what Halloween Horror Nights, I'm still going to call it 30 because I still think it is.
Version 2.0?
Should be. This is 29.5, I think I'm going to call this.
Okay.
Well, I look forward to seeing you guys because, usually every time we talk, I try to tease you as much as I can. And I didn't this time because I'm being really, really nice.
Yeah, and it would just be mean
come
if
back
you did.
next year, the teasing will commence, I promise you.
Awesome.
I hope so. I'll hold you to that.
So again, thanks, Charles. For everyone who's in the area or who can travel, get down to Universal, get your little bit of Halloween Horror Nights on. It is going on now daily through November 1st. But for Charles, myself and Tracy, go and get your spook on and we will see you next time.